The story begins when a boy fell off a cruise ship, and even as he screamed for help and struggled to stay alive despite the heavy waves, the ship's crew didn't even try to look for him. Instead, they tossed a life jacket into the water and zoomed away. Determined to survive no matter what, he tried to swim towards the ship, but the waves had other plans for his tiny body. Over on the island, a girl named Suzu was hoping to catch some fish, only for her hook to drag a kiddo out of the waters. She noticed he was basically lifeless, so she smacked the life out of him, which, honestly, was killing the already half-dead boy. As a last resort, she decided to kiss him passionately, or so we thought. It was actually CPR, and the idiot girl had the lung power of an African giant frog. When she took him to her grandma's house, a crowd gathered around as they'd never seen an outsider before. The scrawny old lady chased everyone away and asked why the poor guy was looking all beat up. Suzu noticed he was flatter than her and had an astonishing peculiarity downstairs, which made Granny tell her he was a man. Everyone who was secretly listening came out upon hearing her words, but she drove them all away once again. When he finally woke up, he recalled that she was the girl who kissed him, so he tried to create some distance between them, only to bang his head on a stone. Later on, he introduced himself during lunch and was thankful he was still in Japan since he could understand their language. However, Suzu revealed they didn't know the location of the island, as their ancestors all drifted there after a storm hit their ships on different occasions. They decided to just live peacefully without technology and even named the island Aru. While showing him around the place, she also introduced her big-nosed pig, Tonkatsu. Just then, she threw a fruit at the tree, where a girl called on popped out. Told the kiddo that Suzu's house was in shambles with a leaking roof and was also infested with ticks and rats, and that he should not bother following her home. This made her so mad that she threw stones at On, which she easily dodged, but then she tripped and fell headfirst off the cliff. They both ignored her and walked away like nothing happened, which made On pissed, causing her to aim her blow dart at Suzu. However, a cart ran on top of her, which made her hit Ikuto instead, causing him to collapse. He had to be carried to Suzu's house, where she gave him the antidote for the poison, which he threw up since it tasted like toilet disinfectant. When he asked about her family, she told him she didn't have parents, so he should feel a home because it might get freaky tonight. While he took his bath, his mind began to simulate some freaky situations, which only got worse as Suzu decided to join him in the bath. On also showed up from under the bath, which only made him fill the entire bath with his nose bleeding, causing him to become anemic. A few moments later, Suzu found out he had been replaced with a giant potato, courtesy of On, who secretly stole him away using her pantless ostrich. As she approached a hill, another girl activated a trap that sent On flying into the pond below. The girl introduced herself as Run, a carpenter by profession, and proceeded to shamelessly ask him to come to her house for the night. Another kid with a giant bear showed up, which made Ikuto ask if he washed up in the Pokemon universe. She made her bear smack him for talking and proceeded to ask him on a date, which eventually caused Ren to pick a fight with her, allowing Ikuto to sneak away back to the village. He soon found himself in the village, where everyone was staring at him like he was the golden goose their mom told them not to eat. Before he could make it back to the forest, another girl approached him and calmly introduced herself as Chick. Ikuto thought she might be different from the others, but she quickly revealed her wild side with a rope in her arm. Another girl popped up from the bush to knock her out and also try to shoot her shot at him. I mean literally. Soon, all the girls in the village began to frantically chase him around town until Suzu showed up to stop them, claiming Granny put him in her care. Despite this, they refused to budge, which made him beg to know why he was being chased. Granny showed up and explained that he was being sought after as there were no men in the village other than him. This made him realize the girls all wanted him for themselves, and not in a pleasant way since he was still underage. He found a boat and quickly took to the sea while the girls happily wished him goodbye, which was suspicious, but the dude was just happy to leave the island. A whirlpool suddenly attacked him, destroying his boat and transporting his sorry ass back to the village. Granny told him to give up as it was impossible to leave, and this made him recall the fight he had with his dad, which ended brutally for him since he was a weakling. He continued trying to escape over and over again because he wanted to make the impossible possible and prove his dad wrong. After a while, he figured out a space between the whirlpool, which he decided to go through, only to discover it was an orca's turf. He got pissed and threw his paddle at the orca, which made it attack him by flipping his boat, causing him to sink. While he went down, Suzu dove in and brought him back to the surface again. It turned out the orca wasn't trying to kill him. Instead, it was saving him from a bigger whirlpool that was certainly going to turn him into mincemeat. Back at the village, Suzu narrated how all the men in the village were swept away by a big tsunami 12 years ago during a festival. and as a result, they became a makeshift harem, just waiting for a man to complete the setting. That night, On tried to steal him away again by replacing him with an eggplant, but Suzu didn't let her, and they ended up in a big fight. Soon, her house was filled with girls who wanted a piece of the rare testosterone Ikuto brought with him. To settle the issue, Granny told them to prepare for a competition the following day where the winner got to marry him. The next day, she announced that there were 3 rules to the game. The first was that it was restricted to the western part of the island. The second was that the time limit was by sunset, while the last rule was that the winner would automatically be the person who made physical contact with him. Ikuto thought he could easily outrun them until the time limit, but the girls easily caught up with him at the start. Suzu, who was behind them, had to throw her ugly pig at the horde of girls, allowing him to escape. After a while, Rin found him once again and began to chase after him while daydreaming of their happy marriage. Suzu swung and, like Tarzan, pushed her away just before she made contact with him. While they were down, Chickage approached him, claiming she would show him where to hide since she wasn't interested in marriage. The half-witted fool actually believed her story and followed her into the woods until they got to an obvious trap that caught his attention. While he went to observe the mushroom like a faultless ego, she activated the trap, only to get caught by it thanks to Suzu's meddling. Soon, the girls caught up with him again, but once again, Suzu eliminated them one after the other until there was no one left. However, Ikuto blindly ran into a cliff and almost fell to his death. While he tried to climb up, he met Makai waiting for him, which made him willingly jump into the running stream. The strong current took him to the edge until he fell down the giant waterfall, which was sure to kill him if nobody intervened. While Suzu dived to rescue him, another girl called Yukino caught him with her pet bird and flew away. They flew so high that Ikuto began to panic, which made the bird let him go. As he fell down, Tomcats has sucked in all the air in the universe, which inflated him like an airbag they so desperately needed. Although they landed safely, he found himself in the forbidden eastern forest, where he got attacked by carnivorous plants that also wanted to know how a man tastes. When he ran to a spot, they all backed down because it was the turf of a giant boss monster whose shadow freaked him out. However, when it showed itself, Ikuto was underwhelmed since it was only an overweight panda. However, the beast revealed its killer claws, which destroyed a rock in one slice. When it tried to attack again, Suzu showed up and used its weight to her advantage, which allowed her to defeat it. She wanted to help him up, but he hesitated, as that would automatically make her the winner of the competition. The panda also recovered and was about to squish Suzu, but he bodied the attack, which flung him back to the western side. When the horde of girls showed up to claim him, they were attacked by poison gas from none other than On, who also knocked him out with her darts. The devious girl waited until Suzu showed up and then proceeded to paralyze her so she could rub the victory on her face. She complained that Suzu always came first in everything. It was finally her turn to surpass her. While she blabbed on, she noticed Ikuto trying to escape, so she chased after him, only to be tricked using the same eggplant she disguised as Ikuto. When the time limit elapsed, Granny revealed that he had lost the competition. She claimed Suzu won because she was the first person to touch him, although he was actually the one who touched her. In a twist of events, Suzu rejected him since she didn't like him and wanted him to decide who he'd love to marry himself. In the end, Granny agreed to her decision since he couldn't escape the island even if he wanted to. After a while, Ikuto got used to living on the island with Suzu, although he still felt like a freeloader. Suzu noticed the electronic gadgets in his bag, so he explained that it was a phone, but of course, she couldn't understand since they had no access to technology. Unlike my ex, Suzu actually cared about Ikuto and made sure to feed him so much that he was also motivated to help her out. However, our guy had weak legs and could barely move with some buckets of water. He got the shock of his life when he saw Rin casually lifting a giant gallon of water, and this motivated him to race her with his buckets, but he ended up falling with them. They soon found someone spying on them from a tree, but when Suzu made her show herself, it turned out to be Makoto, who had a sister complex. For the first time, he was glad that his charm didn't affect everyone in the village, and this only made him realize the island had made him think he was hot stuff. Makoto approached him, threatening to kill him if he touched Run, so she got kicked in the head for talking to the village prince lightly. No matter how hard he tried to help out, he ended up fumbling the job, just like his father knew he would. When they got to the farm, some girls needed help digging out potatoes, so Ikuto volunteered once again. Unfortunately, his pull-out game was weak, and he couldn't harvest a tuber alone. Suzu decided to help him out, and together, they were able to pull out the big-ass potatoes. He was shocked that they were so big, but he soon learned that the land was so fertile that every harvest was gigantic. They moved on to the animal section, where they helped to trim sheep who all looked like furballs. Even when fishing, the sea creatures were so creepy and hostile that he almost passed out from shock. The cows were also gigantic, just like the panda in the forest. For their next task, they had to climb up a shrine at the edge of the island, carrying a giant radish on their back. When they got up, Suzu took his radish and left inside, leaving him with Maki, who had zero regard for personal space. When Suzu returned, she called Maki her elder sister, which was so hard to believe given her size. Maki revealed that her mom was making dango, which was Suzu's favorite meal, and this got her drooling. Maki asked her to help her look for An, and in exchange, she would give her a lot of dango. Suzu immediately agreed to the announcement and went into the forest to set a trap for An. She climbed up the mountain and screamed that An was flat-chested, and in that instance, An showed up fuming at her false statement. She approached Ikuto, claiming her assets were like a new crypto coin with the capacity to grow. Meanwhile, Suzu just wanted An to get in the sack, so she could claim all her dango. She activated the trap she set beforehand, but before it could bind her, An called her ostrich pet, who whisked her away with Ikuto. However, they didn't go too far before crazy Suzu somehow appeared in front of them, looking like a possessed zombie. Seeing that she could do anything for some Dikufu, An promised to double the amount she would get if she teamed up with her to find Maki's weak point. She instantly agreed to the deal and headed out to ask the one person who knew more about her. They met up with Run, who claimed that Maki used to be scared of the giant bullfrog found in the south of the island. They immediately sped off to catch the bullfrog without listening to her. A few moments later, they returned with a bullfrog, who had a habit of swallowing humans whole. Suzu brought good news, claiming Maki would die if they stabbed her in the heart, but An thought it wouldn't work because she had a heart of steel. Maki happened to walk into their conversation, where An was badmouthing her by calling her an old hag who had passed the age of marriage, which is apparently 18 on the island. Suzu also revealed she betrayed them to get all the Dikufu Maki promised, and simply asked An to reconcile with her. For some reason, Maki was sad, which made An surmise that Maki's age was a sour topic to bring up, so she teased her as much as she could. She got so pissed that she chased her with magic with the intention of killing her. That evening, while looking for firewood, Suzu warned him about the narrow road ahead, but she was the one who carelessly fell off the cliff. She ended up landing on her buttocks, which could have been dangerous if she were flat. She soon found out she broke the statue of a god called Izo, which made her scared that she might be cursed because that particular statue was used to seal an evil spirit. Ikuto couldn't give two shits and simply stuck the parts of the statue together carelessly and left because he didn't believe in ghosts. Back at home, Suzu was still worried about the statue, which might have unleashed a ghost to haunt them. She soon noticed something creeping at the door and ended up latching onto Ikuto all night until the following day. Instead of helping out, the girls wanted him to ditch Suzu and spend the night at their place, which was much more comfortable. It seemed all the girls were also scared of ghosts and evil spirits, but Ikuto told them they were being lied to so they wouldn't wander into the forest. Meanwhile, An took her time scaring the hell out of Suzu, who was in a vulnerable state, so she yeeted her away as far as possible. That night, An wanted to wear a mask to frighten them, but she too got frightened by the appearance of a ghost. When Ikuto went out to check what was happening, he found An scared shitless as she too saw a ghost. When he went inside, he found the supposed ghost attached to Suzu, but he wasn't scared due to the power of ignorance and stupidity. When the ghost tried to attack him, he threw a punch, which was pretty effective, even allowing him to tame the ghost. He scolded the ghost for frightening the girls, but in his mind, it was just some naughty animal who wanted attention. It eventually took a liking to him, and the next day, it went its way and disappeared, which was all the proof needed to conclude that it was a ghost. But the half-wit still found an excuse for the whole situation. Not long after, Yukino caught her pet bear Kumakuma secretly eating the grape jam in the storage. To scold her, she warned her that she would become like an unhinged Suzu addicted to Dikufu, and this terrified her. Meanwhile, Ikuto spaced out, thinking about how long he had been on the island and wondered if his family was even worried about him. Just then, Yukino came flying down and crashed into Ikuto, who passed out immediately. Another legion of Pokemon came to take her away, leaving Suzu with an unconscious Ikuto. She wanted to resuscitate him using CPR, but he was thankful he woke up before she could blow his insides out through his ass. For some reason, they seemed to understand what the animals were saying, which was weird to Ikuto. However, they revealed they could even read, write, and do basic arithmetic, which was mind-blowing. After a while, they noticed Kumakuma wasn't in the gathering, and Yukino somehow forced them into the search party. They soon found some footprints and followed them until they found an obese Winnie the Pooh hanging around. When she called him an old fart, he got angry and smacked them away. They continued looking around but couldn't find the real Kumakuma, only fakes, whom Yukino was amazingly able to tell apart. After searching for a while, they decided to take a break by munching on some weird stuff. She confessed to scolding Kumakuma after she finished the grape jam inside the storehouse and thought she might be sulking somewhere because she compared her to Suzu. At the other end, Suzu and the party of Pokemon halted their search because of a malevolent presence they felt. They soon found out it was only the hyperactive On, who was goofing around looking for attention. They simply knocked her away and continued their search. Ikuto decided to draw a missing poster to enable them to search around, but when he approached a bear with a picture, he was attacked because his mouth smelled bad. He decided to try a costume, but it didn't make much difference as he was still a plague to nature and a walking abomination. When they got to a bridge, Ikuto didn't want to cross it considering that it barely had any support. Still, Yukino headed for the other side without a care in the world until the bridge collapsed. Although he tried to save her, he got dragged down, which put them in a tricky situation. Just as the other part of the bridge was about to give way, Kumakuma yeeted them up and saved their asses. When the others caught up with them, Ikuto realized he could now understand their animal language, which made him run off rather disappointed. Without wanting to be a useless man, Ikuto began practicing kendo early in the morning. However, Suzu couldn't understand his motivation since no one on the island had any use for a man regardless of his usefulness. Suzu was also stronger than him, which was also a big problem. While they carried on with their daily routine, there was a mild earthquake that disconnected the water supply to the village. When she got home, she discovered the bath was empty, so they called Rin to help bring water manually from the river. Thanks to everyone's combined effort, they were able to make a temporary hot bath that the girls took turns using. Meanwhile, On was stuck blowing the firewood. They all complained how difficult it would be to make fires to use hot baths every day moving forward, which made Ikuto tell them not to take baths every day as it wasn't necessary. They ganged up on him, calling him a disgusting, unhygienic loser who was destroying their ecosystem with his body odor. Seeing how concerned they were about bathing, he left first thing the next morning to investigate the hot spring at the top of a dangerously tall mountain. He had trouble climbing each time he tried until eventually Yukino showed up to help him up using her bird pet. Upon getting to the top, the other girls also arrived to fix the hot spring. They noticed there was something clogging the well, so Ikuto volunteered to go down and check. Suzu followed behind him on the rope, causing him to pass out since he unexpectedly saw her plot. Once they got to the bottom, they began digging up the dirt and passing it up using the fetcher. After digging for a while, another earthquake started, which destroyed the base of the well, causing them to fall into an underground cave. Since the hole they fell through had closed up, they decided to follow the direction of the wind to find a way out. Ikuto noticed Suzu had injured her leg, but she told him she was fine since she wasn't used to asking for help. As a gentleman, he gave her a ride on his shoulders until they got to the opening. They noticed the exit was too high up, so Ikuto started digging at a rock at the edge that looked like it was obstructing the flow of water. He continued digging until his shovel broke. However, he didn't stop and used the wooden handle to hit the rock over and over until it got destroyed too. His yelling woke up a beast under the hot spring, which pushed the big rock from its place and freed the water that was stuck. As a result, the strong current of the rising water in the cave dragged them down. They tried their best to hold on, but Suzu got dragged down until she lost consciousness. Ikuto had to go down and single-handedly drag her up, not knowing she was pretending the whole time. The water level rose high enough, bursting through the surface and pushing them back above where the well was also overflowing with water. After a while, Suzu took Ikuto to the southern part of the forest for the first time. She claimed she wanted to introduce him to her master, who had taught her jujitsu, which made him assume it must be his scary 67 macho lady. She also told him her master was the lord of the southern forest, which reminded him of the enormous panda he encountered in the east. Her master finally showed up and turned out to be a tiny cat with 2 tails. She introduced her as Nia, the king of the cats, who has lived for more than 100 years and is well-versed in martial arts and transformation jutsu. Nia revealed there was a survival game coming up in the southern forest between its 2 major species, the cat and dog tribes. Every year, they partake in the game to determine who will be crowned the lord of the forests. Using that logic, she also explained there were lords for the 4 parts of the forest, including the sea, across the entire island. Nia wanted to recruit Ikuto and Tonkatsu since the dog tribe was rumored to be building their strength. On the day of the competition, both teams took off from the start line as they headed into the forest. For some reason, the humans were able to keep up with the dogs. They soon discovered it was a trap to distract them from the banana peel they tripped on. Before long, everyone was holding a brush, as the game winners would be decided by whichever side managed to draw 2 mustaches on the opposing member's face. In the banana peel traps, they were ambushed by a dog who tried to paint their faces, but Ikuto stopped his movement with a banana peel. After escaping the banana trap, Tonkatsu caught up with them shortly after. Instead of running to safety, Suzu decided to take a picnic break out in the open, causing them to be surrounded by a group of dogs who could use a cloning technique. As they circled around them, Ikuto instructed Suzu to place a brush on their feet and make them trip. This plan actually worked, which made it clear Ikuto had started flexing his low IQ in Zootopia. When they approached the dog leader, Maki ambushed them and marked their faces. When Suzu asked why they were siding with the dogs, An made up a dumb excuse. But in reality, they were being punished for eating dog food since they were too lazy to cook. For the final showdown, Maki told Ikuto to let her have her way with him if the dogs won, and he could do the same to her if the cats won. Meanwhile, An and Suzu's clash easily ended when An stepped on the landmine she planted to get Suzu. While they fought, the dog snuck up on Nia and drew a perfect mustache on his face. While they celebrated their victory, they soon discovered he had replaced himself with Tonkatsu, and the real Nia had used a Tonkatsu disguise to claim victory over the dogs. Immediately after the cats won, both sides started dancing together as they were only passing time and decided to watch Ikuto show off. The next day, the group of side characters went to the edge of the northern forest to watch the only secure tree in the forest blossom. Before they entered the northern forest, they had to split up so the lord of the forest wouldn't notice them. Ikuto was paired with Maki, who made them pass through a dangerous cliff where she discovered Ikuto was scared of heights. Although she was the weird one for not being scared, she tied him with a rope and tossed him down to meet the others, who followed less dangerous paths. They soon found the Lord of the North, but before they could throw a tantrum, the mellow guy revealed he was defeated and had already given up his title. He even showed them the way to the tree and left. On their way, they found a destroyed bridge and wanted to just call it quits, but Rin made them help her cut a log that they used to cross over. Although Ikuto had already gotten exhausted after using up so much energy to get to the tree, when they reached their destination, the beautiful sight was definitely worth all the stress. The next day, they went over to Chikich's house, which was the only Western-style building on the entire island. When they knocked on the door, they heard a voice that wasn't Chikich's, which made Ikuto curious if she had a sister. Suddenly, everywhere began to rumble, and the door flung violently open, pushing Ikuto away to reveal a pink elephant maid. Once they were allowed inside, the elephant was introduced as Pino, and she apologized for flattening him behind the wall. Suzu revealed that Panako was considered the prettiest girl in the village. Yeah, you heard that right. This made Ikuto sample her features, but what was creepier was pink Panako blushing. Ikuto decided to play along and also complimented her, but she hit him too hard out of embarrassment. Just then, Chikij arrived, looking sensational, causing Ikuto to use all of his mental strength to stop himself from ogling her. He begged her to change her outfit as he was running out of blood, but she simply wore more absurd clothes each time until Suzu somehow joined her to begin a cosplay party. When he asked why she was invested in cosplay, she told him she learned from a book that cultured men were into cosplaying maids who dressed to expose most of their plot. She claimed the books were all washed into the island along with various objects hijacked by the storm. She took them to the basement, where she wanted to show them all the collections she had accumulated over the years. She wanted him to identify some appliances like a rice cooker, so he told them it was a device that turned stone into edible food. They also showed him a microwave, but he told them it was a time-traveling device only real otakus knew about. His lies made them treat the objects even more dearly, like alien artifacts, and they became eager to test them out. However, he revealed that they couldn't use any of them since the island didn't have electricity to power them. After identifying most of the items for her, she settled for the fact that she now knew their actual uses. Although they wanted to go back home, she told them to wait and stay over at her house, as she had already had plans to prepare dinner, including dikufu. On hearing this, Suzu convinced Ikuto to stay the night with her. A few moments later, they both sat at the dining table, expecting that they might be served Western dishes, which got Ikuto drooling with excitement. They soon arrived with a Western-style dish that changed his mood the moment she opened it. She claimed it was a hamburger, but he could see that it was basically spinach and tofu placed on top of each other. For the next meal, she brought in ramen, which looked promising, so he decided to dig in, only to discover it tasted like sorrow and misfortune. Eventually, she brought curry rice, which he enjoyed so much that he poured out a fountain of tears. After eating, they still wanted to go home since they had unfinished chores. Chickage decided to rely on desperate measures, like making an octopus wet them with ink. As a result, they all headed to the bathroom, expecting to bathe together. But Ikuto was keeping everything PG-13 and couldn't bear to look at their plots. In the end, he caught a fever after losing too much blood while the girls bonded in the bathroom. After Suzu was done, he went to use the bathroom, unaware that Chickage was peeping, but without her glasses since the steam would render her blind. She sneaked into the water, ready to explore, and at the same time, Panako showed up to wash Ikuto's back. Since she was almost like an NPC, he allowed her to wash him while Chickage observed from underwater. She decided to approach them to get a better look at his manliness. But unfortunately, Panako dove in and crushed Chickage in the process. A few days later, the sister-obsessed Makoto was secretly watching Rin bathe, but she disappeared when Rin noticed her presence. Just then, Tonkatsu and Ikuto happened to come to the river and stumbled on Rin, causing him to nosebleed for the first time. A girl actually freaked out and was embarrassed since she was plotless, and this made Ikuto so glad that he thanked her for acting like every lady should, unlike the vixens who all wanted to bathe with him. He totally forgot she was still plotless and ended up receiving a punch that sent him flying. After he landed, Rin came to apologize for hitting him and explained that she had become body conscious because she attracted the girls from the village despite also being a girl. Ikuto thought it wasn't so surprising since she had the biggest racks on the entire island, unlike most girls who had evolved into surfboards. She noticed someone was stalking them, so she kicked the tree, hoping to catch the stalker. However, no one fell down, although Makoto showed up behind her and began professing her love. Rin wanted nothing to do with her forbidden love, which only made her take out her anger on Ikuto, promising to make him handicapped if he dared show up at their workplace. Over at Rin's house, she, along with her mother, grandma, and her animal siblings, who were all wearing kimonos, sat down for dinner. Immediately after the prayers were said, they all rushed their meals and devoured them in a few seconds. When she mentioned that Ikuto would be coming to help out in the workshop, they all advised her to show off and impress him enough to get him hooked. The next day, he showed up with Suzu at the shop, all pumped up to work. Rin's mother introduced herself as Risa and her old gangster mother as Ritsu, the foreman. Makoto sneaked up on Suzu and told her she was worried about Ikuto. Suzu also expressed her concerns, but apparently, she was slow in the head and wasn't thinking about Rin's ability to use her feminine charm on Ikuto. She had to come clean by pointing out that Ikuto was falling in love with Rin. However, Suzu thought it wasn't a big deal since he loved everyone at this point. Makoto got fed up with the dense girl and wanted to shove the difference between romance and platonic love into her brain. When she mentioned that he saw Rin bathing, she recalled the bump she saw on his head the previous evening and thought something was actually strange. Meanwhile, Ikuto was trying hard to distract himself from her revealing outfit, which got him wondering why she dressed like that when she claimed to be body conscious. She noticed he was distracted and ended up banging her fingers with a hammer. Ikuto got close to her to check out the damage, while Makoto held herself from exploding with jealousy. She watched as Ikuto and Rin shared a romantic moment she couldn't ignore anymore, so she threw a hammer at him. When they moved to another section, Rin tripped on a wood and fell on him in the process, causing Makoto to attack him with some freaking ninja shuriken. At this point, Rin couldn't maintain her composure anymore and started acting like my ex who messed up anything she tried to do. She decided to take a break in the forest and left him with Makoto, who almost killed him with a bunch of water-filled buckets intentionally. She even challenged Ikuto to a duel, which he rejected as it was pointless. But when she told him it was impossible for him to win against a ninja like her, he got offended because the word impossible reminded him of his father. They both began a competition to determine who was the better carpenter, and Ikuto, who had never done the job in his life, was able to keep up with her. While everyone watched in amazement as they did everyone's job at a much faster pace that they couldn't dare to complain, in no time, they finished the roofing and the floor until the house was done. That evening, they all had a round table meal beside the house. While eating, he and Rin started getting cozy once more, so Risa used the opportunity to beg him to marry Rin and take over the family business. Of course, Makoto couldn't stand by and had to dump a world-sized watermelon on everyone's head. The following day, it started raining early in the morning, so Suzu didn't bother doing her daily chores, as it was an automatic day off from work when it rained in the morning on the island. Ikuto thought it was cool, but she claimed she loved to work and wished the rain would stop. Ikuto decided to make breakfast for the both of them, but ended up creating a witch's concoction in the process. Suzu still ate the ugly-looking food and encouraged him like a caring person would. Meanwhile, Chickage was busy experimenting with weather forecast devices, which all turned out to be massive failures. Still, she didn't give up and was prepared to investigate the frog's habitat since they made noises when the weather was bad. Over at Suzu's place, Ikuto wanted to die of boredom as there was absolutely nothing to do. He wished he could watch some anime or play games, but given the unfortunate place he got stuck in, there was no hope for that. Suzu began to suggest various games that were all girly and uninteresting. He later settled for shogi, so they arranged the pieces on the board and played rock, paper, scissors to determine who gets to make the first move. While playing, they talked about the storm and how it might wash another unfortunate soul onto their island. Ikuto noticed Suzu spacing out randomly with a sign of loneliness in her eyes. At Ren's house, she showed the senior workers the new drawer she spent time making. When they tried to open it, it didn't budge, so she revealed it was a sliding door. They called her a failure and left her disappointed, as her work couldn't be called a drawer if it wasn't drawable. Meanwhile, Suzu won the game over and over until Ikuto gave up. When he asked her how she was so good, she revealed she used to play with her mother while she made preparations for lunch. Ikuto wondered what he could do for Suzu, who looked depressed. She noticed he was deep in thought, so she asked him if he was feeling okay. The room began to get hot by the second, only for the gang to open the doors and ruin the moment. Inside, each of the girls gave her different presents to cheer her up. She decided to make lunch for them all while they had a hot bath together. The thought of a bath made Ikuto assume the worst, and he was right. They immediately started stripping without common courtesy and even wanted him to join them. After they left, Suzu revealed she was aware the girls were trying to make her feel better because they always came around whenever it rained. She told him she didn't feel so lonely thanks to his presence. That night, he was so in his feelings that he helped her wash her back in the bathroom, something he wouldn't do on a normal day. He also let her bathe him and went on about how they'd spend the night together, all cozy. Unfortunately, Suzu's mind was playing pranks on her, as it was all a dream. Ikuto had to wake her up since she had spent the night inside the water tank. She caught a cold the next day and had to be taken to Granny to check her condition. Granny told him she had a fever, so he should bring some ice to lower her temperature. In the forest, Yukino and her Pokemon party were busy making ice cream with grated ice and honey when Ikuto showed up. She jumped on him and asked if he was the famous Ikuto. He noticed she looked different, and just then, Yukino showed up and addressed her as her mom. She introduced herself as Kagami and tried to shoot her shot at him since it was a rare opportunity to make a sibling for Yukino, who had gotten used to playing with animals. Yukino called her mom an old hag who should stop goofing around and be like the useful mothers of the village. But this only made her angry, and she accused Yukino of age shaming. Ikuto quickly cut in, revealing that Suzu had a fever and that he had come to fetch some ice for her. When they heard this, they were shocked, as it was unusual for Suzu to be sick. Kagami surmised that something emotional must have affected her state of mind and caused her to fall sick. Ikuto could care less about their superstition and just wanted to get the ice pack, which he was having a hard time finding. Yukino then showed him into the cave where the ice was safely kept so that it didn't melt. However, there was nothing there, which made Kagami confess to using the entire ice pack to make ice cream. She offered him the last ice cream bowl if he could make use of it, but the moment he said it would melt before they got to town, she pounced on it without thinking twice. As a last resort, Yukino told him they could climb up Mount Fuji to get some snow, which could be compressed into ice blocks. Kagami also volunteered to go with them, and although Yukino was against it, she made her agree through violent means. Meanwhile, Makai felt she could use some ice to cool off during the hot weather, so she pricked her voodoo doll substitute, which was linked to On, causing her to run to her. When she arrived, she told her to get some ice for her in the forest. As soon as Ikuto set off with the Pokemon band to climb up the mountain, Makai joined them on their trip without an invitation. Ikuto told her to come down, as it wasn't a sightseeing trip. When she jumped down, her sandal strap broke, so she told him it was a bad omen, but he didn't give her the time of day and simply left with the others. To inform On about the journey to fetch some ice up the mountain, she used her doll to communicate with her via Morse code, although On had to endure the prickling. As they approached the top of the mountain, the weather changed drastically, so they had to change their attire into some warm clothing, while Ikuto froze in the cold. Yukino was chilling inside her pet guinea pig's mouth, while Kagami was taking a shortcut using a bird. She got to the top and started goofing around like a child, forcing the animals to play snowball with her when she was supposed to be gathering ice. One would think Yukino and Ikuto would be the serious ones, but they too succumbed to the temptations of snow fighting. They eventually got the job done by filling the wagon with ice, while Kagami was busy building an igloo. Even after filling the wagon, the snowstorm didn't allow them to return home, which made Yukino suggest that they wait out the storm. Ikuto was determined to go down despite the storm, as Suzu's recovery rested in his hands. Kagami thought it was cute and asked him if he was so devoted because he wanted to develop feelings for her, but the thought only made him lose more blood. Despite their warning, he pulled the wagon alone like Superman, but it didn't take long for his strength to fail him. He had to motivate himself by imagining the pain Suzu must be enduring, and this made him more hyped up as he sped off. He didn't notice the sign indicating a sharp turn in time and ended up falling off the cliff, but saving the ice wagon at least. He, however, survived the fall thanks to the snow that provided a cushion for him. While he climbed back up, an avalanche swept away Yukino and the party from the top, along with the wagon. They ended up crashing down to where Maki was, and she was glad she didn't bother following them all the way up. Ikuto quickly wrapped a ball of ice on his shirt to deliver to Suzu, so Kagami made her bird help him make the trip faster. When he arrived, the ice had already melted, but what was more shocking was that Suzu had already recovered. Immediately after he got the good news, he collapsed from exhaustion and also got a fever, so they had to use the ice he brought back on him. In the end, one morning, Maki was busy being a useless elder sister who didn't do any house chores but instead left all the work for poor little An. An told her she would continue to be the record-breaking spinster in the village if she didn't do some chores, which is the greenest flag every man looks for in a woman. On hearing that she needed to do chores to get Ikuto's attention, she dropped her food looking dejected and got determined to learn the necessary skills to be a wife. She headed over to Chiki's house that morning and begged her to train her to become a good cook. Although she paid attention to every word Chikij said and even jotted down points, she couldn't help but be baffled by how Chikij ransacked the kitchen every time she was searching for something. When Panako finally came into the kitchen, it was in such a mess that she yelled at her for imitating the pig lifestyle. Makai soon realized it was hopeless to learn from her, so she went to seek an apprenticeship with Ren. Makoto attacked her and threatened to destroy her if she got attached to her sister. However, Makai was the master of Shikami, so she sent them towards her. That night, she returned to the house with a box to show off her new skills to An, who wasn't pleased that she went off to become a carpenter instead of becoming a good chef. To help her out, the following day, she went back to Ren's place and asked her to teach her how to make some amazing dishes. When Makai got a hold of a knife, it looked like she was possessed by a spirit, which was quite terrifying. That evening, they all headed to the shrine to have a taste of Machai's latest meal. Before they reached the top of the shrine, they stumbled on Run, who emerged from the darkness and gave them a scare. She looked really down, and when they asked what was wrong, she told them not to eat Machai's meal before collapsing. Ikuto and Suzu tried to escape, but some Shikami showed up to drag them into the shrine to meet Makai, who had a special treat for them. When she left to finish up in the kitchen, they tried to escape only to discover they had been trapped in the room. They began to hear strange sounds coming from the kitchen, which terrified them as they expected the worst from Makai. When they tried to escape again, some Shikami showed up to scare them. Finally, they were served the live-course meal, which Makai made sure they ate in front of her. Knowing fully well that she was trying to show off to Ikuto, the girls asked him to be the first to sample her meal. He summoned the courage to take a bite, and given her expression, he began to eat it alone. They were all expecting him to reveal that it was actually a marvelous meal, but Ikuto passed out first. He came back to life 10 seconds later and announced the meal had been approved by God as he continued to help himself to the delicious food. Seeing that they were enjoying the food, Makai unleashed the actual terror of the night, which was all the uncooked monsters she had brought from the underworld.